Hello, this is Yaro, and welcome to a brand new episode for 2026 of the Yaro podcast. It has been quite a while since I've recorded an episode for my show, and I've decided to start back up basically doing shorter episodes but on a more regular basis, mostly solo episodes behind the scenes of what I'm working on as an entrepreneur. There's a couple of reasons why I've decided to do this. One has to do with a little project, a new business that I've started up with a friend of mine, and it has to do with audio content. So I thought I have to do audio content myself in order to be a proof of concept. What is a part of that project is actually recording on very simple devices. So I'm actually just using my Google Pixel phone now, using the audio recorder that's built into the phone. All modern phones have an audio recorder built in. So I've just got the phone next to my mouth and I'm talking. So it's no big studio setup. There's not going to be any kind of post-production editing. I'm not going to be adding music or doing any balancing or cutting out any of the mistakes. It's raw, it's unfiltered, and that's deliberate. The idea here is reducing the barrier to being a regular content producer just using your voice. So that's all I'm going to reveal right now about the new project, but I do have lots of things to share about that throughout this year as we get it out the door for you guys to try. But I thought, since I'm stepping back into this podcast, which is actually a very old podcast in many ways, it was actually begun all the way back in 2006. So it's 20 years old. It has changed names. It was the Entrepreneur's Journey podcast, and then there was the Yaro podcast. It's been Vested Capital, although I spun that off as its own separate show. So there's been various versions of it, but it's always been me either as the interviewer or a solo podcaster. And one of the themes of this show has always been me sharing either my story as an entrepreneur or the story of other entrepreneurs. And that's going to continue. I'm going to continue to talk about what I'm working on, what's working for me, especially as a marketer. How am I getting customers, which is always one of my biggest goals. And just anything I'm learning about. I read a lot of books. I listen to a lot of audiobooks and podcasts. So I'll be sharing with you what's working and what's not working for me. So I thought I'd do this one today, just a brief recap of what is working and what is not working for me as a good starting point to sort of reinvigorate this podcast in 2026. So for those of you who are longtime listeners, you know that I had an education business for over a decade. That business began to wind up. I won't say end, but I started to move away from it around 10 years ago. And that's when I started my current business, Inbox Done, behind the scenes. It wasn't really just an experiment, much like I'm doing a new experiment right now. Inbox Done, an agency that provides executive assistants who specialize in email management, was started around 2016, 2017, became a proper business in late 2017. So I've been running that for, it's not quite 10 years, but a good chunk of time. And it's still my main income source. We have a team there of about 70 people, 70 clients. It's a seven-figure business. It has been a very roller coaster business. I will honestly tell you, it's been up and down throughout the entire life of the business. There's been periods where it's been very slow and frustrating. There's been periods where it's grown suddenly and I thought this is going to be, a 10-figure or a $10 million business. And then it slowed down again. Sometimes, you go a little bit backwards before you go forwards. But ultimately, it's grown to become a great little agency. And I'm very proud of it. I'm out of much of the day-to-day. I do coordinate a team. And the team does things like create content for our blog, create content for our social media. My co-founder is going on podcasts. So we're doing things primarily there to continue to rank well in Google and to rank well in the emerging search of AI, where we're starting to get clients there too. So that's kind of the main focus, really back to my roots as a content marketer. So we're producing content, we're building links, and it's all about doing things for AI search as well as always feeding Google, what it wants to see. So that's working. That's where we're getting most of our new clients right now. But I will say it's definitely been slow. I feel like mid 2025, things start to really turn into a slow period. And I've noticed a lot of other agency owners are saying similar things. If you're in sort of areas where it's easy for AI to start to have an impact. AI doesn't impact us too much because we are a higher end service. We're not the sort of thing that you would replace us with a $30 a month AI tool, because we're a $2,000 a month service. But there are certainly impacts in the sense of how people search for our service is being impacted by AI. So we have to kind of rejig our marketing there. But that's still very much my main business. The paid ad campaigns we were running there, I basically ended at the end of 2025. It was a okay source of new clients for us for about 3 years, but never really became a reliable, sustainable source that I felt I could build a system around, and it was getting worse and worse. So we made the decision to stop doing paid ads. However, I'm so grateful to have gone through that because I really have a stronger understanding of things like LinkedIn ads, Google ads, and Meta ads. So I feel much more comfortable stepping in to those spaces if I need to do so again. But still, content will always be my strong point, and I'm very big on content marketing. So, and of course, as I mentioned before, my education business before my agency was very much a content-based business too, a blog, a newsletter. So, that was how I grew my audience there. But with this new project, I'm still using content as a starting point, but I'm looking for other ways to start to get the word out. One of my big goals for this new project, and for any project, honestly, is getting a word of mouth distribution going because the product is so good, or if it's a service, the service is so good. And when I say that, a consistent, reliable word of mouth where you see people go, oh, I like this, and they start talking about it in Reddit, on Facebook groups, they share it with friends, they mention it in a podcast. You start to see these little moments online where you're not in charge of. I've never had that with my agency on a big scale. We have a very small amount of word of mouth, mostly just one client sharing with a friend directly. We don't really get that kind of mass word of mouth, and that makes sense. We're a niche agency. There's just not a lot of people talking about the service that we provide. However, I think with my new tool, which I'll start talking about in more detail probably in the next few episodes. In fact, I'll be using my new tool to distribute this podcast, so I'll talk more about that as well. I expect it's a SaaS tool. It's lower priced. I'm hoping it's something that does generally get spoken about within a certain community online. That is the goal. However, I have a belief about entrepreneurship, and this is probably a great spot to sort of wrap up this little reintroduction to my show. I have a belief about entrepreneurship that in order to succeed, you have to have many shots on goal and increase your surface area of luck. So I've been in business for over 20 years now, starting as a teenager, actually over 25 years really. And I didn't realize it back then, but it's one of these things where you should never get too attached to a specific outcome from a specific project, because nothing ever goes the way you expect it will go. And chances are you'll need to have multiple projects to reach the goal that you set for yourself. I'm still reaching for a certain goal. I'm still trying to get that $10 million a year business, maybe even a $100 million exit from one of my businesses. And to reach that point, I know I need to find a certain product market fit, really hit a strong need and provide value to those people and do great marketing, do great customer service. And I've tasted parts of this. I had a great education business. I've got this great agency. But to scale to 10 million, there's always felt like something's been missing, often on the demand side. It's something about the thing I was selling. There was a wall I kind of felt like I've been hitting. And in many ways, it's only a restriction based on a goal you have. If you went back to me 25 years ago and talked about this agency, I'd be very happy having this company up and running. But that's for a 25-year-old. As a 45-year-old, the goals are bigger. There's not as much time left to sort of, wait around for something to work if you have a bigger goal. So I do believe a lot of this has to do with the number of shots you have as an entrepreneur, the goals you set for yourself as an entrepreneur, and the runway you also feel you have. Now, some people always feel like they have a very short runway and they're trying to move as fast as they can. But I will openly admit that as a 20-something-year-old, I was not running as fast as I could. I was just trying to make something work in whatever way I could for my nervous system, my body, my work habits, the way I lived my life at the time. So I was I was very much governed by variables that I felt were relaxed. I wasn't feeling a lot of pressure other than the pressure to make money, which is a very strong pressure. Where now I start to feel as an older middle-aged kind of person that I don't want to start a project that's going to be a couple of $100,000 a year in revenue. That's great to own, but I don't want that to be my main thing that I'm working on. It needs to have the scope, the scope and the scale, the skull, made up a word, to get even larger. So that's what I'm working on with my side project. If it's not this project, I will keep looking for new projects to try and get there. And that to me is the fun of this. It's trying to find that thing, being creative, trying to solve problems for people, different business models. So that being said, I of course maintain my current business, and much of my experience, what I'll probably share with you as well, will come from the last 25 years of these various businesses that have been $1 million businesses, some less, some more, and there's some projects in between that were not $1 million businesses. Certainly had a range of experiences from selling physical products to selling small little software tools, mostly in the education space with content marketing, and more recently with my agency. But I'm diving into SaaS at the moment with this new project. So, I've got the full range of every business model to talk about, and I hope to continue to share with you guys what I'm working on, what's working, what's not working. So consider this a hello, I'm back, and I'm going to be doing these more frequently. They are going to be shorter, but that's the point. The idea here is to reduce the barrier. I don't want to be having to have the perfect setup, having to have the perfect script, having to have an interview guest standing by. This is going to be, as I learn something, sharing with you 5-10 minutes. And I'm doing this deliberately because I want you to think about whether you could do that as well. Is this a form of content creation, especially if you're the kind of person who doesn't like to write, who doesn't want to be on camera, doesn't want to be on videos, but you like the idea of using your voice for 5 to 10 minutes a day to share content. So if that's something that might spike your interest, as I'm doing right now, stay tuned because I have more about that idea for you coming up very soon. For now, that's it for me. My name is Yaro. You can still find my blog at yaro.blog. And if you happen to need help with your email, inboxdone.com is my agency. Thanks for listening. Talk to you soon.